Hey, Femme Fam. Guess what? We have been getting some really amazing guests lately, thanks to some awesome PR teams. And we are adding a little bit to our season this season because we've been getting so many cool guests. So, the guest that we're going to chat to today, she actually kind of appeared on our radar, not last minute, but recently. So, we're popping her in because her film is actually going to be released today when you're hearing this episode. And you'll hear more details about that near the end of the episode. But I just want to let you guys know you can expect a slightly longer season because after this season, Carolina and I are going to get pretty heavy into more sync stuff, which we've talked about a good bit on the podcast, but we'll be sharing a lot more of kind of our behind the scenes experience. So we might have slightly less guests next season, but I can guarantee you're still going to learn a lot, hopefully laugh a lot. I'm sure we will. But today I have a solo episode as Carolina started her 9 to 5, if you haven't already heard. But our guest today is absolutely amazing. I had such a blast talking with her. I loved hearing about her whole experience as a director and her whole career, really. It's inspiring for sure. So, our guest today is Anna Gutto. She is the writer director of Paradise Highway. She has done a lot in her career. She started in theater, then moved on to film. This is her, though, directorial debut for a feature film. And I am so excited to watch this film, you guys. I got to see the trailer so far, and it looks amazing. I'm really excited to watch it. It looks like it's going to be a really fun ride. And Paradise Highway, put out by Lionsgate, is a story that Anna's been working on for a while, and it really shows in, the intricacies of the relationships of these characters. And you can tell that she put in the work. She did the research, and she gets into that in this episode, which is some really interesting points that we're going to hit. But I know you guys will be inspired, and I hope this makes you want to go out and watch the film, which will be listed in the show notes exactly where you can watch it, besides just select theaters, also on some streaming. And as Anna mentions, she's going to be at some screenings and Q&As. So we will share that information with you as well if you'd like to go out and see the film and hear her talk about it in person. But in the meantime, enjoy my chat with Anna. Anna, thank you so much for coming on today. We're really excited to talk to you. Carolina and I started out as actors and progressed through various jobs in the filmmaking side of it. We're now producers, and she's beginning her directorial career. So we're excited to hear about.
Exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So we're excited to hear about your experience. I know you've done a lot before Paradise Highway, so we'll get into that a little bit first. But then Paradise Highway being your first feature directing job, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's my feature debut.
Amazing. I love that. Well, yeah, let's start from the beginning. I was looking a little bit kind of over your bio on IMDb, and I saw how much you've really done in your career, even up until this point. So, if you just want to share with our audience a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, for me, I started in theater. I always knew I wanted to be a storyteller in some sort, and theater was sort of what was accessible. And also, I also started out as an actress, and theater was really my space for acting, and I loved it. I did it for a long time. I did it in Europe, and then in New York for many years, and then I started a theater company. I would, put up plays, and I would, in New York, I would say I did pretty much like 50-50 acting and producing,
Hmm.
something like that. And ended up, and then, but I always knew that I would graduate into directing at some
Hmm.
point. Like, I always knew that I would become a director, but I always felt it was something that I needed to graduate into, because I
Hmm.
felt like I needed other experience before going there. But then, as I started directing more in theater, I realized that theater was not the right medium for me as a
Hmm.
director. For an actor, as an actor, it was, but as a director, I needed to work in a medium that was more visual,
Hmm.
because in theater, even though theater obviously is visual as well, everything still has to be said in dialogue.
Right.
And the realization of that made me be like, okay, well then this is not quite my medium. So then I, as one does, I got sort of friends and all my resources and tried what I could to make a short film. And I made this little short film called The Kangaroo. And then I knew that that was my space, that was my
Mhm.
medium. And being on set really felt like home. So then from there, I actually decided to go to grad school because I didn't have a graduate degree, and I felt like I really wanted to have that period of time where you can just focus on your own development within
Mhm.
something. And so I gave that to myself, and I was lucky enough that I got scholarship. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I did my MFA at Columbia University in New York, and really got to immerse myself into becoming a filmmaker and a director, and that's actually where I started writing Paradise Highway,
Mhm.
the script for this movie.
Okay.
And then after Columbia, I I did some sort of episode directing or split season directing on a Netflix show, and also did some more shorts during the time, of course, and all that time I was still also developing Paradise Highway, and then now it's finally come to fruition. But
Yeah.
I started writing. I just realized this like a couple of months ago that I started writing Paradise Highway when my first child was born,
Mhm.
and he is now 10 years old,
Oh,
or
wow.
he's turning 10 in October.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, first of all, I love that you said that you gave that to yourself, like going back to school and getting, this actual degree in filmmaking because we always kind of debate, is film school worth it? And I think for
Mm,
us personally, we've come to the realization that it completely depends on the person. It
mm,
depends, what you feel like you want to learn, what you feel like you're lacking in, all that sort of stuff. Because plenty of people do go to successful film careers without film school, and other people would have been lost without it, so it really depends on
mm.
the person. But I love that you approached it in a way that's not, I need to do this in order to consider myself a real filmmaker or something like that. You said you gave it to yourself, which I think is a really important distinction, You did it for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no, I absolutely did it for me because I felt, if I could have been as productive and done as much within the same number of years, not being in film school.
Mhm.
But I felt like, at least for me, I felt like going to sort of a structured environment and where I would have professors and teachers and other students, it would be easier for me to really immerse myself
Mhm.
and to really kind of make that transition. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's completely individual. I mean, some people can have great careers without going to any school, and a lot of people go to school and don't have a career. So it's really just what you feel like matches for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that approach. And I also love that were honest about how long you've been working on this one project. And, working on a project can mean a myriad of things, but that you've been with this project for 10 years, essentially, until really
Mm,
getting it into production. And I think a lot of people, until they really get into filmmaking, whether it's a career or even just a hobby, don't realize, yes, it's a lot of work, but there's so much time that really, really needs to be taken to put into it. And again, each project's different. Some have
mm,
way shorter or longer timelines for sure, but
mm,
to not be afraid to take that time, I think is a really important thing. If it's a story that you really want to tell a specific way and you know how it needs to be done, or maybe it's the opposite that you don't know where it needs to go yet, but you want to stick with
mm.
this project, like it's important to take that time for yourself and for the project's sake.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I would have happily had it happen sooner, of course, but you also want to do it right, and you want to honor the story and bring it together in a way so that the story can be fully
Mm-hmm.
what it needs to be. Um, but obviously, but I also believe that it is important to be impatient as well,
Mm-hmm.
because even though, now it sounds like a lot with 10 years, but, and obviously, like I said, I did other things throughout those 10 years, but I was incredibly impatient the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hadn't been, I don't know that it ever would have happened, because
Yeah.
that's also part of how it happened, was that I was kind of continuously really working very hard to always kind of inch it those steps forward in order to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's also an important distinction, is that, you weren't just sitting on this project, that you were
Mm,
actively working on it the entire time as well. I know that's something Carolina and I always feel a little, when someone says, "Well, how about that project that you guys were talking about, 2 years ago?" And we
mm,
haven't, don't have anything to show, quote unquote, for it yet, but we've been working behind the scenes on it the whole time. And it's
mm,
hard sometimes to make people understand, how much work
mm,
goes on behind the scenes in development and pre-production and all
mm-hmm.
of that.
Yeah, I mean, it takes, well, it takes time to make something good.
Hmm.
And that's always going to be our goal, is to try to make something that we feel like is the best way to tell that story. And, with this script, for example, the time in research has been incredibly valuable,
Hmm.
both research into like female trucking, also the issue of trafficking, of course, and also like FBI. And I've found consultants in all of those fields and people to talk with, and I've been on the road with the female truck driver, this woman Desiree Wood, that I've gotten to know very well. And that's also part of the work, is to all the
Hmm.
time get closer and closer to the environment and to the issues and to the relationships and to the characters and all of that. And and all of that, everything you invest ends up on the page and then ends up on the screen.
Yeah.
And and especially, I mean, research has always been important to me, also when I worked in the theater. And and it was, I'm so glad that I had the research I had on this film, because once we were on set, and as you know, with the caliber actors that I had on board, I was a novice compared to them as a director.
Hmm.
But it was very easy to have mutual respect, because they also knew that I knew this film, and
Hmm.
that I knew this environment, and I knew these people, and I knew their jobs and their professions, and that. So I feel, and it was certainly important in the development process too, with the producers. And it creates respect,
Yeah.
and so even if someone would have wanted to, it wouldn't have been easy to find. Even if it was a more maybe a more experienced director, it wouldn't have been easy to find someone who could handle all of the issues that were involved in this.
Yeah.
um, and I've even noticed that with the studio and with the distributors, that there is a respect in terms of certain choices, that they that that they have to kind of trust certain things, because of the research that I have.
Yeah, makes sense. Real quick for our listeners, I'd love if, because we mentioned a little bit kind of what the film's about, but if you could just give them kind of a brief synopsis.
Well, for me now, 10 years in a brief synopsis, I don't know. No, but the film is about a female truck driver, and her name is Sally. And the only person she has in the world is her brother, Dennis. He's in prison, and she doesn't like it, but she does these drug runs for him on the outside, so that a prison gang keeps him safe on the inside.
Mm,
And then this particular day, when she's going to pick up a package of drugs, it turns out that it's not the package of drugs, it's a young girl. And it's a girl called Layla, who is 13 years old. So it puts our main character in a terrible dilemma.
mhm,
And it's a dilemma that then drives the whole rest of the story forward. And eventually Morgan Freeman and Cameron Monaghan come in as this quite wonderful sort of FBI pair, where Morgan Freeman is an FBI consultant and Cameron Monaghan is a relatively new agent. And then the story is just, it just goes along, and I don't want to reveal too much more.
Yeah. I watched the trailer. I love just um even specifically in the way the trailer is made, because sometimes, you have the trailers that like either you don't really even know what the movie's about by the end of it,
Right.
or it tells you the whole thing and you're like, now I don't
Right.
even need to watch the movie. So I think you guys did a really good job with the trailer. But it
Well, I
really
have to
made me
thank
excited.
Lionsgate for that.
Fair, fair. But it really did make me excited to watch it. It looks like a really good story. And I do love the pairing of Morgan Freeman and Cameron Monaghan, because it's just, even visually, like you kind of get that gist already that, he's been in the field a while, he's seen it all, and then you've got this new fresh face. So I
Mm.
think that's going to be a really cool relationship to watch on the screen.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And again, I mean, there also I had this FBI consultant, with me, who unfortunately has to stay anonymous because he's
Mhm.
an active agent. But a lot of the lines that Cameron and Morgan have are actually kind of transcript from conversations I had with that guy, which
Oh,
is
that's so
which is
fun.
fun. And actually, especially some of the kind of like jokes and things like that are, so it's also very real, even though sometimes those kind of characters feel a little, it feels like one has seen it before, but it's a little different in this one, I think.
Yeah, I
And
love
and
that.
also just because Morgan and Cameron are both really wonderful, it's great to watch them.
Yeah. And listeners, just so you know, Cameron's going to be on our next episode. So make sure you tune in next week for that as well. We get to chat with him too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So tell me, you came up with this idea back when you were in school, and you've been working on it for 10 years before it comes to life really fully physically. What exactly inspired you in the beginning to write this?
So the sort of seed of the inspiration came a long time ago. When I was a teenager, it turned out that there had been a brothel in my friend's building,
Mhm.
and this was in, a safe city, in a safe neighborhood. This was not, and it just really shook me to realize how trafficking is happening right under our noses,
Mhm.
and that we're not really doing anything about it. So ever since then, it sort of kept bugging me. And then as I started making movies, I knew I wanted to create a story that addressed it in some way. And I knew I didn't want it to be an issue movie. I wanted
Mhm.
it to be an exciting, like I wanted it to be a movie that people go and see and they can enjoy a movie. And as I was kind of working on developing it, I was so lucky to have Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver, etc. I had him for one semester at Columbia, and we were talking about the story. And then he said to me, he was like, Anna, there is this, I've seen this like YouTube video of this trucker woman.
Mhm.
You should take a look at her. And then when I started researching the female trucking industry and all of these women, and got to know Desiree, then the character of Sally really came to life.
Mhm.
And um and and it was exciting, to, yeah. So there are all of these different things. And then on top of that, I think there is definitely also, on more of a relationship level, of the core relationship in this story between Sally and this young girl,
Mhm.
there's definitely a lot there also, in the fact that I became a mother right as I was starting to write this.
Yeah.
And as everyone knows, who is a parent, then there's joy, but there's also kind of trepidation, because suddenly your this little person's life is fully your responsibility.
Mhm.
So there's definitely part of that in it too. And I think, yeah, at least that's how it was for me, that like creating a story that really came together in a good way. There are a lot of different elements that come together to create a good story.
Yeah. Very cool. So After school, you said you went on to do a few separate things, short films, directing some episodes on TV, stuff like that. So when it came time to actually make Paradise Highway, how did that all really like how did that ball get started rolling?
Well, it was kind of like I mentioned, it was sort of, I was pushing that ball all the time while I was
Right.
doing these other things.
Yeah.
Um, but it really, there was a big step when I found the right producers,
Mhm.
because there were definitely, a few rounds with different producers who it didn't turn out would really maybe have the capacity to get this movie made. And then I met Claudia Blumhuber in 2018, I guess it was. And so then when we started working together, then it started having more momentum.
Mhm.
But then really it started really gaining momentum when Juliette Binoche came on board.
Okay.
And that was a lot of luck. And also my cinematographer, John Christian Rosenlund, he had worked with Juliet 10 years earlier, and he
Mhm.
sent her the script. And then here's where the luck comes in. When she received the script, she was on a road trip in the same kind of landscape as in the movie.
Yeah.
So she told me later, she said, she was like, Anna, I opened the script on my phone, and here I was reading about the same landscape that I was seeing out the window. And I
Yeah.
thought, I'm just going to have to do this movie. But obviously also, I mean, she also said she really responded to the character, and to be able to step into this kind of transformational role for her
Mhm.
was exciting.
That's amazing. So, she's obviously a big name, and that's really cool that your cinematographer was able to make that connection. How did you get the other names in your project? Was it just kind of, traditional route, like you were able to reach out to their agents and offer them whatever they wanted to be paid, or was it also kind of luck that you knew somebody? I'm always curious to hear those stories.
No, it was really just Juliet that had a connection like that. Everyone
Mhm.
else, it was the script.
Okay.
But my producer was obviously instrumental in that, because she has a track record, and she really is, she has wonderful taste, and people know that.
Mhm.
And she has good relationships, so it made people read the script.
Yeah.
um but like, as she says, it's the script that makes them want to do it.
Mhm.
um and then but actually, I mean, Cameron was the only one she had worked with before.
Okay.
Frank Grillo ended up doing another movie for her as well, but he was attached to Paradise Highway first.
Okay.
um yeah, so it was the script, and kind of her, and the agents and their reps liking it. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
That's good to hear. I think a lot
yeah.
of times for filmmakers kind of earlier on in their career, when they are ready to make something of the caliber that they want to attach a name to, and it's always like,
Mm,
well, how do I convince them? And it's good to hear that the script really does make the difference. And of course, you have to get your foot in the door to be able to talk to them, however you do that.
mm.
But like that, when an actor really reads a script that they really respond to, they're going to want to do it. It's not just always just about money or, only who you know or anything. Like, the script does make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's essential. I mean, the hardest thing is to get people to read.
Right.
So if you get them to read, you want to have something that they're going to respond to.
Yeah.
And so even though it took years and years to make the script what it became, it was definitely worth it, you know? Um, but there was something I wanted to say about kind of, well, you got to have some luck. Yeah, because I mean, I came in with no connections whatsoever. I mean, I haven't grown up in Hollywood. I haven't grown up inside any of this, and my cinematographer was not someone I knew from before either.
Hmm.
So in a sense, you can say the first step was that I got him on board, and
Yeah.
that was just on the script. I just sent him the script blindly, and he read it. And I happened to be in the city he lives in that weekend, and I was like, I happen to be here. Do you want to have a coffee? And then he read the script right away, and we met, and he wanted to be on board. So it's, and then I also I took the initiative to do to do a location scout
Mhm.
when he happened to be traveling anyway. He happened to be in the US traveling, and that, you know, you always kind of build relationships, because why would someone want to trust someone who hasn't done something before? I get
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
So when I hadn't done something before, I have to prove that I can be trusted, that I am someone who is okay to work with, that I am someone. And I didn't think about it so much at the time, but I think, for him to come along on the location scout and be on that trip together, kind of understanding more about me. And I think that's part of what made him then offer to send the script to Juliet,
Mhm.
because he had gotten to know me a little bit more. So it's,
Yeah.
but film has to be a trust type of thing, because everyone gives so much of themselves, um, that you want to work with people. You want to work with people you think you can trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know especially as an actor, like it makes all the difference in an experience if you have a good director who you feel
Yeah.
comfortable with, who you feel like you can trust versus someone that and it's not always necessarily they don't know what they're doing or whatever, but it's
Mm,
just, it's an attitude and a lot of times just the kind of person someone is
mm,
that, you can
mm,
really, as an actor, you're in tune with emotions and energy and all that kind of thing. So like when you feel that and you really feel comfortable and trusting with someone, it really
mm.
does make all the difference.
It does make a huge difference, because you're gonna give more of yourself when you feel safe.
Yeah. And even for crew too, it
Mm-hmm.
extends beyond actors, because
Mm,
of course you're going to get paid at the end of it, but you're giving your time, your
mm,
energy, all of that to a project. So,
mm.
yeah. Hey, fam, have you heard us raving about Jambox yet? Because let me tell you, it's such an amazing tool for filmmakers, podcasters, advertisers, and anyone who needs music for their projects.
Jambox.io is so versatile. They've got songs and sound effects, organized by artist, genre, mood, and tags.
And they're actually affordable. For as little as $9.99 a month for independent creators, $6 a month for students, or $19.99 a song, you can choose whether a subscription-based membership or a la carte pricing works better for you. And they're flexible. For individual creators, to commercial, to advertising, to theatrical release, they've got you covered.
Plus, they're constantly growing and evolving, with new songs and playlists all the time and customer service on point. They really do have everything you need.
We've been working with them for a while now and couldn't be happier. That's why we have a special coupon code for our listeners.
For 10% off your purchase, make sure you enter code FEMME10 at checkout. That's FEMME, FEMME 10 at jambox.io, where they connect creators with ridiculously good music and sound effects.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly feel, when we were shooting, there is so much going on, and it was, at least for me, relatively big crew, and I wish I could have, had more time with all of them, that I could have gotten to know each of them better, that I could have made sure that they all, felt appreciated, and because they were all part of making this movie. It's
Yeah.
it's not my movie, it's our movie.
Yeah. And I think that's also an attitude that really it doesn't go unnoticed. When a director or
Mm,
producer, someone in, a seat of power essentially with a project really makes it, it's our movie. Everyone feels like they are a
mm,
part of it and not just, working a day job to make it
mm.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that I feel like I will find better and better ways of making sure that I manage to communicate
Mhm.
that, even though I feel that way. I'm sure on this film that I'm sure there were some people who didn't necessarily understand that's how
Mhm.
I felt. I tried to make sure to say it, but
I'm
you
sure it
can you
does
can
show
always
too.
get. Yeah, yeah, but I think you can always get. Yeah, I think I will get better next time at the really making sure that people understands that that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I would also like to get into just for a little bit about directing a child actor, because that's
Mm,
something that, a lot of people don't get to do, don't have a lot of experience in, and then when they have to do it, they don't know what to do.
right.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, I have worked quite a bit with younger actors and also in challenging roles, not just sort of fun stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I respect all actors so much, and probably because I also used to be an actor, I really sympathize with, and I know how much they give of themselves. I also did do a lot of acting as a child, although not professionally, but I
Hmm.
I would do a lot of acting. And so I just have so much respect also for the child actors. Um, and one thing that I know, like there are definitely some directors who talk about how, well, with child actors, you just have to kind of manipulate them into getting what you want. And that's just not something I believe in.
Yeah.
Um, in general, I don't believe in it. Not with any actors, but but not with children either, because I respect them. So like with Hala, who is an incredibly talented young woman and incredibly professional and hardworking, I respect her so much.
Hmm.
I know that she will give what the character needs. If I It's up to me to give her the space to be able to do so. And it's up to me to be able to discuss the scenes with her and talk about the character with her so that it gives her what she needs in order for her to do her work.
Hmm.
Um, Now, she is incredibly good. And obviously, with some children I've worked with, I have to help them more in the process. And that's also okay. But with Hala, it was really just such a respect for her, and there was such a respect for her process that it was um, it was really more than anything about deciphering the scenes and
Hmm.
talking through the scenes in advance and really breaking things down with her.
Yeah. Did she have much experience before? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, she did a TV show when she was really young,
Okay.
which I can't remember the name of it now. I'm terrible with these things, but and then she has done a few movies. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
she is a professional,
Hmm.
but this is I believe this is the first really like challenging sort of breakout type of role she's doing.
Yeah.
And she's incredible. I mean, when you see the movie, you'll be floored by her, I think. I mean, she's
Even in the
just
trailer, I was.
yeah. No, she's a breakout star, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, Jennifer Lawrence or one of these other people, unless she decides she wants to do something else, like
Hmm.
become a doctor or an architect or something,
Yeah.
because she can probably do whatever she wants if she sets her heart to it. But I think she's going to continue being an actress because she loves it. She loves it
Hmm.
so much. And like, she loves it at a deep level. It's not about the attention for her, but she
Yeah.
loves like the actual process of acting and being in a character and honoring what that character needs. She's just incredible.
I love that. I love to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, she really is.
Yeah.
She really is.
So you guys shot everything. How long was production, out of curiosity?
We had 25 shooting days,
Okay.
which was very little for this movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of, it looks like big action scenes, I guess, for lack of any better word to
Yeah,
describe it. But yeah, it's complicated scenes
yeah,
that take time.
yeah. There are action scenes and just driving. I mean, driving in
Yeah.
itself takes is really time consuming, and let alone with an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
So it was 25 days. Was I really would have loved more time.
Hmm.
Um, and then we had a few days with drone drone
Okay.
sort of pickup shoots a couple of months later.
Yeah.
That we intentionally did that way because we wanted to kind of get along with the edit to really know what we wanted and what the movie needed. of that. But yeah, 25 days.
Yeah. And then did you choose shooting locations based purely on, this is the look that we're looking for? Or were there other factors like, the tax, all that kind of stuff that goes into it?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely some choices about, where we could shoot in terms of that. But we had actually planned to shoot in New Mexico,
Hmm.
but we ended up shooting in Mississippi because of Morgan Freeman,
Okay.
so that he could stay at home while we were shooting.
Hmm.
But Mississippi also have tax credits, so
Hmm.
so that was. And then in terms of, yeah, I mean, we had a lot of locations on this movie, and we had an incredible AD, assistant
Hmm.
director, who, I don't know how her brain works and how she's able to schedule as well as she does, but she was able to schedule this movie, and I still have no idea how she managed to do that.
Yeah.
It's her name is Mary Kerrigan, and she's yeah, she is remarkable. So she was able to, and she was also with us when we were scouting, so we were running around and finding, and I really would say that most of all we went for what we wanted for
Hmm.
the locations. But obviously you also have to hub certain locations, especially when you're moving to 3 different locations in a day. But I always felt good. I felt good about all the locations, and I
Good.
felt like really good about some of them are just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just exciting. I love
That's so fun.
locations. Locations is
Yeah.
like a big, I really, it's like, it's a big thing for me with a movie to get the locations right is really, I think it's important. It gives so much to the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also Frida Oliva, the production designer, she was also along for the location scout, of course. And we were, plotting in what this would all look like. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
I love when you can get more people involved with pre-production stuff, such as location scouting. Like, anytime that I'm working with a production designer, for example, or, an editor or a sound person, anyone that's willing to like come on for things like that, I'm always so excited for because I feel like
Yes.
that makes everyone's job easier. But it also, you can work out the kinks and stuff. And maybe
Mm.
they're going to think of something that you wouldn't even realize, like sound, especially. A lot of times you don't realize how loud places are because it's
Yeah.
just kind of background sound to you, but they'll point it
Mm.
out. And yeah, so
Mm. Yeah, no, the more, but obviously that's again about sort of money and how
of
many people
course.
you can bring along and all of that. But it's yeah, it gives a lot with whoever is able to and can come on board early. It's just so it may, everything that you do in prep gives back tenfold during production,
Hmm.
because during production you have no time, and you're always pressed during pre-production too, but the more you can get done then, the at least more doable it is during production.
Yeah, for sure. So once you wrapped and you get the film edited and it's time to get it out there, were you much involved in the whole like distribution plan, all of that, or were you hands off on that? I'm always curious about that
I
because I feel like it goes either way
Yeah,
for
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have any say
Okay.
with that side of things.
Yeah.
But they were very nice, and the producers always held me, kept me posted and everything. But no, I had no say
Yeah. It's
in
honestly,
those things.
yeah, probably
And
less
it
stressful for you that way.
and that's also okay,
Yeah,
that's totally
totally.
fine. It's how it should be, and I had so many other things to think about that was about actually finishing the movie, so
Right.
yeah.
So before we let you go, I would just love for you to let our listeners know where they can watch the film since it will be coming out today. And also anything personally, social media, website, anything like that that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so the movie will come in select theaters tonight, as you're saying, and it's exciting because these days it's exciting even that a film just gets in theaters. So if it's in a theater close to you, you definitely should see it in the theater. But it's also going to be on the normal streaming platforms, and and Tessa will put that in the notes so that you
Yeah.
can see exactly where you can see it. You can follow me on Instagram at Anna Gutto. That's it, just Anna Gutto in one word. That's ANNAGUTTO. And the same on Facebook. I'm Anna Gutto, just with a space in between on Facebook. And I'm not on Twitter. I'm not a Twitterer. But yeah, please follow me on Instagram. That's where I post the most, and then you can follow what's going on. I will be in LA on the 29th for some of the
Okay.
screenings, and I will be in New York for screenings on the 31st. So
Amazing.
tonight I am in LA, and on Sunday I'll be in New York. So maybe I'll even see people in the theater.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Anna, for coming on. This has been a great chat. I always just love hearing, people's directorial debuts, whatever that means, whether it's their first short, their first feature, but like getting to hear that, you got to do that on such an amazing project that you've been working on and has been close to your heart for so long, and that you got to do so much with it. Like, it's so exciting.
It is exciting. No, thanks so much, Tessa. It was a great conversation.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.